I have in the studio Xavier Qadar. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, you did.
Thank you so much, sir, for coming in.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I want to start off with, let me just read this. I wrote an article, and I'm just going to read just a short part of it. To kind of start my passion with living well. If there was a time to gain understanding of the world around us and how we fit how we fit, the time is now. There are never too many avenues of expression. I envision giving voice, support, and education at every level about wellness, mental health, and mental illness. My understanding is there's a connection between wellness, mental health, and mental illness. And I want to take every opportunity that God allows me, because I only know a very minute part of it, to listen to the voices of those who have much more wisdom than I. And so, Xavier, thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thank you for having me. Peace to the family that's out there.
Okay. And so can you, I'm excited to hear your bio. I read your bio, but I want you to kind of share that bio with the listeners.
Okay. My name is Xavier Qadar, and I'm originally from Chicago and by way of Gary, Indiana as well. I've been here about 20 years, a little over 20 years. I came here initially to become an engineer at ITT Technical Institute. As I completed that degree and became an engineer, I did a lot of work with robots and a lot of coding. But the thing that led me to therapy was me working with a young man named Chris. We had an after-school program in which we worked at Abbott Elementary, and we were able to work with the after-school children. They were the 4th and 5th grade. And at that time, I had a young son who is now 20. Happy birthday, Jerry. He's 20 years old today.
Oh, happy birthday.
And I would take him with me. And this young child named Chris, I believe, he asked me, he said, why is it that your son is with you so much? Is his mother dead? And I thought about that. I said, this 10, 11-year-old child thinks the only time that men get to spend time with their children is if the mother is deceased.
Did he happen to be black?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so that did something to me. So after that, Chris and I became relatively close. I did a lot of after-school programs. After that, we had a Black History program that we didn't have to participate in, but they asked us to. With me being a male, I think that lended another hand to him, that it was an opportunity to do something different. So as I went on to my engineering field, did that for a number of years, a number of companies here locally, that always tugged at me. And so I was working at a local place doing engineering, one of the easiest jobs I ever had, and very lucrative as far as pay went. Unfortunately, that particular supervisor, I was a supervisor at the time, but my supervisor that was above me happened to call me the N-word.
Oh, wow. So
upon him calling me the N-word, we met and they said, well, can you continue working? I said, no. And said, well, how can we make amends for this particular issue? And they said, well, we'll be willing to assist you going back to school or whatever you want to do. They'll give me a payout, basically. So I ended up going back to IPFW, and I thought about Chris, and I said, well, I'll go back and be a therapist. So after getting my undergrad at IPFW, I went to work at Park Center here in town, and I worked in the addictions department, where I was under the tutelage of Rashad Slate, who is now a licensed marriage and family therapist, and Dr. Marshall, who I sat at his feet, and I was just trying to soak up, as they would say in the streets, all the game that I could soak up. And he was willing to give it to me as I was a young, headstrong man like himself. And he saw something in me and he said, well, you need to pursue greater things. And so I began that quest to get my master's degree, in which I completed. And after that, I ended up working for the state for a while. I worked for the Division of Aging, where I did investigations. And when you are You have the power to shut down someone's monetary givings when you could take state, because you are a advocate for the state, and you could take that and twist it if it's under investigation for doing something liable to a client and shut off their money. You have a different level of power.
Mm-hmm.
And to see them buckle when I would come in with my state badge on and me being as black as I am really did something to them. A number of places would, when I entered, they would call the state to make sure that I was correct, to see if I was really a state agent or if I just made my badge up.
Because you're black?
Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness.
Absolutely. And so after working there for about 2 years, I did some work with the Center for Nonviolence here locally. I learned a great deal there. And then after that, I worked at St. Joe Hospital, and as well as Nicollet Counseling here on St. Joe Road, down the street from Dwinger, which you can still see me there. I'm still there. Mm-hmm. And also at the only residential substance abuse house in the area, which is Star Care Services, which is at 601 Tabor, here at the corner of Hannah and Tabor, right next to the library there on the Pontiac Library.
Okay. That's a very extensive biography.
Well, I want to make sure I'm thorough, that people didn't think that sometimes it's not the route first taken, sometimes it's the route best taken. So I didn't want to start out doing that. Engineering, it came easy to me because I was very good at math. But as I pursued, it was something else that tugged me. So most of this is due to Chris and not necessarily due to me wanting to pursue that, but I want to make amends for that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have been, I was introduced to you by a young woman who thinks very highly of you. And from the moment I started, she introduced us and we started talking. Just right here in the library, I was very eager to have you on because you have a lot to say. And I guess another reason is because of the, how do you say, stigma of not just mental illness, but specifically mental illness in the Black community. And so I want to read something from you that I just found in the newspaper. This is Destiny Child singer Michelle Williams says she's seeking help for the depression she struggled with for years. Williams said in an Instagram post that she has sought help from a great team of healthcare professionals. She gave no specifics about her treatment, and a message left with her manager seeking details was not immediately returned. Williams' post says that for years, she has dedicated herself to increasing awareness of mental health and empowering people to seek help. She says she recently decided to listen to the advice she has given and wants to lead by example in seeking treatment. So what I'm seeing is more and more people of color are coming out to say, hey, I have a mental illness, and they don't look at it as a stigma, but it's still a big stigma in the community. And so as a male therapist, can you speak to that? Talk about the significance of being a Black male therapist and your experiences.
Well, to address that particular issue, when it comes to depression, mm-hmm. Most of us are in denial, especially in the Black community, in the whatever you want to stigmatize us as, and whatever label you want to put on us, the DG, the Tiano, whatever name you want to use. Oftentimes, we're supposed to be the super people. Oh, you're supposed to be the Black man. You're supposed to be able to take on everything and still be able to go. It was a stigma placed on us early in slavery that said we can take more punishment, more aggressiveness due to our skin tone and complexion. Mm-hmm. It was also labeled that when it comes to the Black woman, the Black woman can do everything. She is infallible. She doesn't need help. I'm independent. They tell both of us these things. Mm-hmm. But when the door closes, when we leave the church, when we go home and we're by ourselves, do we break down and cry? I remember as a young boy, I had some family trauma that went on in my own household, only to see my mom fall into what is diagnosed as depression, feelings of worthlessness, the inability to sleep, the diminished ability to concentrate, to focus. And I saw her isolate to the point that she didn't want to leave the bed. Okay, and I didn't understand what that was. Prayer wasn't fixing it. People coming by wasn't fixing it. And I didn't know what it was. I was too young. I was only maybe 16 or 17, so I didn't have the wherewithal to know how to deal with such a thing. And that's when I saw that, and I realized that my mom needed outside help, and that was okay.
As a young child,
very much so.
You thought so. Okay.
Absolutely. And so as I got older at IPFW, when I was at undergrad, we did a collaboration with the Pontiac Medical Center here in town. And they would just divide us up where you would take on different avenues. You would take somebody's blood pressure. You would be a therapist. You would be a counselor. You would do various things. I got caught being a counselor at that particular point in time. So they asked me to do that. And so I was giving people a mental health assessment. It's supposed to take maybe 10 to 15 minutes. Because I looked like the people that were being served, that 10 minutes turned into 30 minutes. Why? Because they were waiting on me. I couldn't wait to talk to you. I said, well, why? You look like me. Let me tell you all that's going on. Little Tyrone, this got this problem. Shaniqua got this problem. Dejanay got this problem. Little Jamal, I'm dealing with this and that. And people are waiting in long lines to get next to someone who can reference and look exactly like them. And working at the hospital, I do a lot of assessments for people coming in. And a lot of the people, when they see me and they see themselves in me, it makes it a lot easier. I can explain or not explain. Sometimes people just want you to hold their hand and tell them it's going to be all right. Can I trust this doctor? Can I trust what they're going to do to my son or daughter? It makes for a whole nother level of communication outside of just the therapy and the clinical aspect. And I think that gets underplayed a lot.
So why is it? Because there is definitely a need. Why do you think more blacks are not being targeted or seeked out for service as service providers?
As far as service, because I will say this. Mainly, I believe it's centered around the fact that it's a stigma around the pay that therapists get. Now, is it the greatest pay? Absolutely not. But however, you have the ability to take control of your destiny in therapy, either if that's through licensing or once you get licensed, you can have your own. Now, I would suggest to anybody listening out there that if you are an undergrad, get your license in social work. It allows you to bill for more things than anything else. Okay, you may be going to be mental. You may want to deal with people with addictions. All of that is fantastic. However, the most lucrative is that of a licensed social worker. Now, this is something I found out, and this is what I learned at the feet of Dr. Marshall, who owned MAPS that used to be on State Boulevard there. He told me how much they cleared one year, and it was in excess of $100,000. And I said, well, wait a minute, I thought therapists live check to check. He said, only if you're working for somebody else. You have to learn to get your own. And now, after working for the state, I see how much money is going to people for these services. Unfortunately, we don't take control. I don't know if we're scared of power. I don't know if we're scared of prestige. That's something I have not been able to put my finger on. However, it is infallible that we step up, get our license, take control, because our community is hurting. Like Fort Wayne has a food desert, they have a therapy desert. People want help. That's why they seek out church in abundance. I'm looking for help. Where can I go to get some alleviation from the pain and stress that it is to be black in this what we call America? Every day you wake up on the news, somebody is gunned down. They have video. Those people that's on the video that perpetrated the crime don't go to jail. That sends you into a panic, into an anxiety that we've lived with so long, we think is normal.
Right. Sounds like you're going into this hierarchy. Let's go ahead and jump right on into that Maslow's hierarchy.
Okay. What many people don't understand about Maslow's hierarchy and how we can apply this to our community is at the bottom, the first part is like a pyramid. So at the top of the pyramid, or the apex, you have something called self-actualization, which is achieving one's full potential, including creative ideas. The next ring, you will have esteem needs, prestige, and the feeling of accomplishment. The next one will be belongingness and love needs, intimate relationships, and friends. The next rung will be safety needs, security and safety. And last, or the largest, or the base of the pyramid, is centered around food, water, warmth, and rest. Okay? Now, we're going to break this down. I'm going to make it very, very simple, and I'm not going to go into the depths of the depths.
Okay.
But I will make it very simple, hopefully, for the audience. We live in Fort Wayne. We're just going to use Fort Wayne as an example. The abundance of Fort Wayne has a supermarket on State Boulevard. Two of them on State Boulevard, East State Boulevard and West State Boulevard. It is not another supermarket until you get to Pettit, which is about a mile, two and a third mile from one grocery store, one supermarket to another. That means in your neighborhood, generally you're left with, in the southeast part of Fort Wayne, you're left with gas stations that happen to take EBT cards, but the food that the gas stations can provide is usually the abundance of things that's going to put you in the hospital for other things about your physical health.
Junk food and nothing nutritional at all.
Absolutely. So when you run into this problem, you are in a food desert.
Yes.
Yeah, they threw up a Dollar General. That's still a food desert. You can't go to get any fresh anything. Now, are people trying to do something about it? Absolutely. I believe they opened up a fresh vegetable store on Oxford Street, and I believe that every Saturday on
Warsaw.
On Warsaw, they have the fresh fruit there.
That's once a week, though.
Yes, absolutely.
We eat every day.
Absolutely. So when you have that problem, when you have problems with food, okay, then you have problems with warmth or cold, or then you have problems with water. If you don't pay your water bill, they don't have to come to your house to shut your water off. They go right to the street, shut it off. So if you don't have the basics down, if you can't get good food and good nutrition, how could you then feel secure?
Right.
That's why they have these programs for kids that go to school. They get these lunches sent home if their school is in a certain district. Why? Because they understand that if food isn't given, if the kids don't know, I'm not secure in what I can eat, I don't know if I'm going to have any food, how can I study?
Right.
How am I worried about a test? How am I going to have self-esteem? And my basic needs
are not met.
Not met.
So can I go back and talk a little bit about this Maslow's hierarchy and what it is? It's a theory. It's what motivates human behavior. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is one of the best known theories of motivation. According to a humanist psychologist, Abraham Maslow's, our actions are motivated in order to achieve certain needs. So what I'm hearing you saying is that when we don't have our basic needs met, which is that on that pyramid, is that at the bottom of the pyramid, if you don't have that basic need met, then the next need can't be met.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's gonna come apart like a game of Jenga.
Yes.
Okay, because we all want our children when they're born, or we all want to achieve self-actualization.
Yes.
Which is the best of us. What's the highest level I can achieve? Most of us can't even get past the esteem. Because now when you look at esteem, which is the second to the highest rung on that particular pyramid, most of us, or generally a lot of us now, especially with the younger generation, are seeking out validation through the internet, seeking out validation through IG, Instagram, Facebook. And the reason they're seeking that out because they're not getting that from the place they used to get it. When I was young, we used to get it from a place called home.
Right.
When you used to, when I was a kid and you were a halfway decent singer, you know the first place that you got a chance to sing and be a solo act? At church. Whitney Houston, Beyonce, all these people started singing at church. All right. Oh, everybody clapping for you. If you was good, they're going to tell you. If you was bad, they're going to pull you to the side and somebody else going to get that solo instead of you, okay? But that's where your self-esteem was built. It was built at home. It wasn't built by people you will never see, you've never met, that if you actually going through something, you can't connect with. I have a daughter. She's 20 years old. She has 5,000 friends on Facebook. Yet when she's going through something, not one of those people on there can contact her and help put her back on track.
Right.
So what is that really telling you? It's selling you a bill of goods that's not any good. It's fiat currency. It's not any good.
Right.
So sometimes we underestimate the old ways when the neighborhoods were maybe more collective, more put together, but it also started with the family. It was an extension of family, and all of us, at least where I come from, I have brothers and sisters and family here now that I didn't create. We are not blood, but they treat me like blood.
Right.
So that's something that we've gotten away from. We need to get back to. And I think that's part of being a black therapist, a black male therapist, which is even fewer of that.
I know.
I've met 3 in my whole time in Fort Wayne. 3, 1, 2, 3. No, take it back, 4. James, I met Mr. James at Nicolette Counseling. But that's it that I've ever met. And we have more problems than a little bit. Now, we won't admit it, but when the door is closed, people will tell you what they're going through. Some of the trauma that comes from being molested, coming from broken families, coming from the lack of father or mother, coming from the fact that we were poor, the fact that I was never included, the fact that, I was dealing with all these anxieties, all these ups and downs. How can I escape this?
Right.
Let me try to self-medicate. And then you self-medicate, and then you become a victim of the system. Because once you begin to self-medicate, you have to seek these things out. These things are not viable with the laws of the land. And then you caught up in another situation. So then you go to jail, prison. You come out with PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, because you're seeing violence and you're seeing the type of violence on a level that you're not accustomed to. And it puts you in a mind state where you cannot relate back to society when it's time for you to get out. So you have a lot of times recidivism due to that simple fact. I've gotten used to the violence. I've become one with that. And it's hard, if not given therapy or psychotherapy, to be able to understand why that keeps happening the way that it does.
So how can we, how do you connect when you're doing therapy or talking to people, how the hierarchy connects to the mental health or the mental wellness? How do you connect those dots?
Okay.
That a client can say, oh, wait a minute, is that what's going on? And begin to turn it around. Does that make sense? Question?
Right. Because when you have things that you can't take for granted that you know are in order, it's hard to focus on anything else. When you have everything taken care of for you, or not everything taken care of for you, but a number of things taken care of for you.
Crumbs, you get crumbs.
Absolutely. So I will give an example here. Okay. So if you don't feel love, you're not getting that love, which would be the third rung there on the Maslow hierarchy pyramid. Okay, if you're not getting love or a sense of belonging, you're going to feel depression or anxiety. Where do I fit in? Where do I go? So even if you have a number of the other elements met, you have food, you have security, you know where you live, you know your house is not going anywhere, but you can't create belongingness and loving relationships because your self-esteem is damaged. Because when you were a child, people told you that you were fat. People told you was ugly. People told you that dark skin is the worst. So you've internalized a self-esteem that isn't very good. Therefore, it's hard to then feel love for yourself because it's not built in already. Right. So you basically starting all over again, or you get stuck there thinking that's the greatest you that it is, and it's far from it.
Right. So talk to us then about how we can, as society, help those that, if it's in our family or loved ones or friends, how can we help? What can we do to help move forward?
Well, the first thing that one can do, I would imagine, is to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes we too busy talking. And not to I see people doing this with their phones. I know we on the radio, but you see people hold their phone away from their ear, about 4 feet away. They're not listening to what the person is saying. Right. Instead, they're the ones that want to talk. They're not taking one moment to simply listen to what the person is saying. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's not necessarily a verbal communication. You see that Jamal is used to being up and around and doing things. He seems a bit off. The things he likes to do or loves to do, he's kind of getting away from that. You know something is wrong. Jamal, what's wrong? This, that, and the third is wrong. You have to take time to listen to that. If they're your children, then you know them better than anybody else. They don't know themselves yet, but you know something's not right. Let me investigate. Oh, they don't want to go to school today. Well, they like school. Maybe they're getting bullied. Maybe they're being harassed. Maybe they are internalizing something that the teacher taught that you didn't pay attention to, that was getting taught at the school. Mm-hmm. So in all these ways, if this is your significant other, boyfriend or girlfriend, and you've been with them a little while, to understand their movements, you have to understand when things aren't right, when it's a crisis time. Does that mean you know what to do about it? Absolutely not. But you know how to, you could do one of a few things with that. You can call 211, then ask for, I'm looking for a therapy for this. I don't know what's wrong. What do we do? Or if they want to take their own life and suicide, mm-hmm. then you say, well, it's a suicide hotline. It's another number for that. If they're saying, hey, I'm just down, I'm feeling some kind of way, then that's when you may have to visit the hospital. You may have to visit Parkview Behavioral Health. You may have to visit a professional. So that way that person could talk it out with them if you feel as though you're not comfortable enough to do that. Because what that does is, what people don't understand, not doing that creates different risk factors for the community. Okay. Because in the community where one person takes care of another person, and we all are in different relationships in society and in the community as a whole, what the risk factors does is, it's the neighborhood and poverty and violence. Here, the protective factors could include the availability of being able to obtain help. For example, Fort Wayne has one major hospital to cover roughly 45% of it. So you got St. Joseph Hospital downtown. Mm-hmm. After that, they're all gone. So this is the last stop before you go way out west to Lutheran, before you go way out north to DuPont or to Parkview or to Parkview on State Boulevard. So we have 2 left. Now we may have some subsidiaries in smaller areas, but they're not 24/7 full functional. So that leaves another desert. Right. So when you need the help, you can't have access to the help.
How do you even get them to the help? Because back in the day now, what black culture did was, if you had people who acted a little bit different, you knew something was wrong with them, what would you do? You just took care of them. The Uncle Jojo may be in the upstairs in the room in the back, and we just took care of them and loved on them and make sure they eat, make sure they take a bath. So because mental health or mental illness was always looked at as poo-poo. Don't tell nobody. That's the family secret. How do you, in this society today, because get people to see, hey, it's okay. They're depressed. It's okay to go get help. If they're having a behavior, it's okay to get help. If they don't want to go to school for weeks and weeks on end, it's okay to go. How do you turn that around?
I honestly think that it's being turned around as we speak.
Okay.
Because number one, we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not one for mumble rap. Lord, forgive me. No, I'm not.
What's that?
I don't know what that is. Okay, that's for the young people, you know.
Oh, okay.
But you had a young man that just expired. Somebody took his life. They call him XXX Tentacion, and in his music, he often referenced depression. He often referenced anxiety. He often referenced his bouts with suicide.
Okay.
And so when he expired and somebody took his life, he then, a lot of the younger generation then took exception to that because of how he spoke out about these things. So this is something, and when you have people from popular groups like you just mentioned with Michelle from Destiny's Child coming out, making these things regular. I think there's a few NBA basketball players that made that regular. So when you see people that look like they're infallible, like they have nothing to lose or nothing going on, that on my level, you see that they even express issues with mental health. So is when you see that, then you're like, I have less, or I'm going through something similar. It makes it easier to be able to relate. And if the person, again, looks like you,
that's it,
sounds like you. I had a young woman tell me that, I said, well, what do you listen to soothe, when you're going through things, to listen to kind of relax? And she told me, I listen to NBA Youngboy. I said, I know what that is. And I said half a rap, and this is a new generation of rap music. And she was like, how you know that? I was like, because I look like you. I'm supposed to know that. And we sat there and laughed because it threw her off that was even possible. And it's a lot of hurt and a lot of explaining that I've listened to different clients over the years say that because we look the same and we have a basic same culture now, one may be more middle class, maybe be lower middle class or whatever, but it's certain things
we
that
can relate to each other.
Absolutely.
I get it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And when that's there, it makes relating to one another easier. And when you can sit there, and sometimes through therapy, it's not always talking.
Right.
Sometimes they go through something so heinous that simply holding a person's hand and comforting them, knowing that I'm there for you, is something that we overlook. I remember when I was a kid going to church with my mother. I think we went 9 days a week to church. I swear. Shout out to my mother. 9 days a week.
9 days.
9 days a week. Ain't but 7 in a week. Okay. And I remember a lot of times people would catch the Holy Ghost, as they call it, or they would just be going through things. Life would just have a confession and these things. And I remember seeing some of the nurses coming behind these people and simply putting their hand on their back and rubbing it in a small circle. And how that seemed to just soothe people down. I was like, how is this possible? I would try it on myself. Would not work, okay? But whatever that was, it would do that. And I think I don't want people to ever underestimate the power of being present.
Yes,
the power of being present. You may not know what to say. You may not know what to do. But the power of presence says something that sometimes words cannot. People don't have the vocabulary to express what they want to say. But being there, holding somebody's hand, you can't even tell them it's going to be all right because you don't know. But you just want to tell, I'm there for them. You know how many people that'll keep from coming in to see me with suicidal ideations that they want to take their own life.
That's cool.
It's something as simple as that we overlook.
It's just being real, but we have to have the opportunity to do that. And being who you are, we have to have the opportunity to do that. And I guess I'm speaking to that because in this society today, I think when I talked with you on the phone in preparation for this, I talked about it's difficult to sometimes it's difficult to even see people who look like you. It's getting better. I've been blessed that I've been able to work in environments that I'm servicing people who look like me. But even back in the day, that was difficult to have someone who looked like you. Having locks, going through this journey of locks. Society would look at you a certain way, and then even in some jobs, looking like this with the locks, you would not even be hired. Society is, or corporate America in some places are telling you can't look like that. That's not acceptable. So that's a struggle even for a professional to say, this is who I am. So in order for you to be able to speak into someone's life, you have to be very comfortable in your own skin to be who you are.
And that's when, if they don't want you, that's when you take control and you start your own.
There you go.
Because when you start your own, guess what you ain't got to do? Answer to none of them. Now you got to answer to the code and the various state laws and Medicaid laws and these kind of things. But that's telling you to start your own.
That's good, Xavier.
You don't want me here?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Great. All right. I'm going to move on and I'm going to create my own. And I think the fear in doing that, because I'm with a place now, like I said, it's Star Care Services that started from the ground up. It started with a dream. The young woman that's the director had a dream.
Okay.
And we used to work together. And she said, one day I'm going to start my own because I can't take working at this particular place anymore.
Okay.
I said, okay. And so all these years later, I get a phone call and she says, hey, I opened my own, but I know it's more I can do. You know, I know you got your master's degree and all these kind of things. Can you help me by doing therapy? I said, okay. So I took some of what I learned at different places and applied it there.
Awesome.
And so now we are meeting with parole. We are meeting with upper echelon places. Why? Because we are the only residential substance abuse all-inclusive place in the area.
That's awesome.
And it's ran by a black woman. So these kind of things are there. It's just that you have to put fear to the side and be able to extend out. Now, does it make it easy? No. Absolutely not. Right. But the answer was very simple. Go start your own.
Right.
But how to do it is hard work. It's all kind of rules, regulations, different things I didn't know. I had to look up, research, meet with other people. Can't be afraid to ask questions.
That's the journey, though. That's the wonderful part of the journey.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But people don't want to, generally, people don't want to do that part of it.
Right.
You know, heck, I was nervous coming on this radio show, let alone. But you got to, but the journey is part of it. And then when you get to that part where you're comfortable, don't be afraid to reach back and bring somebody else.
Go.
Hey, you can, are you 20, 22 years old? I'm 43 years old. Okay, I'm finna give you what I know so that way you can be ahead. You could be where I'm at 43. You could be there by 30.
Right.
Then you reach back and tell somebody else, okay, you in the 8th grade. I'm going to tell you, so you could be ahead by 24. You could be where I was at 30. So that way we can each one to teach one so we can be ahead. I wouldn't be doing a lot of the therapy that I'm doing if it wasn't for Dr. Marshall on that level as far as how to achieve different things. And it wasn't necessarily everything he said. It's what I watched him do.
And he gave you the confidence to do it.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And because he was there directing and he wasn't a iron fist, you know, beating the drum and all that. He said it. It got done. That's it. I said, okay, I see what time this is here. You know, but that's the kind of leadership that we all strive for. You know, I want to shout out also Mr. Nicolette, because when we were starting a thing at the Star Services, we reached out. I didn't know him. I seen him on the internet, and I called him. And he said, "Come on in," and we talked. And I said, "Hey, I need to go and get my license and this and that. Will you train me and work with me and stuff like that?" And he said, "Yeah." He didn't know me from a hole in the wall, but because he saw my potential, I had to go in and lay it down. I had to sit there and listen, take a lot of notes. I had to be inquisitive, but then that allowed me to do one other thing. Now that I'm on top of that, now he said, "Well, you want to come work in my office?" I said, "Well, sure, why not?" And now all the black people that I couldn't see because they don't have substance abuse issues to see me at the other place, and they done with the hospital, they done with that stay, then they can come see me out there.
What's the name of the company?
The company is called Nicolette Counseling.
Okay.
It's on St. Joe Center Road,
okay,
down the street from Dwinger. Mm-hmm. And so that allows them to see me out there on their convenience because, I was in different things. So that allowed that to happen. So, but you have to be able to continually connect, continually learn. Anybody that's trying to be in therapy, you're forever learning.
Right.
It's always some new technique coming out, new way of doing things coming out. These things are always apparent, so you can never stop really studying. And sometimes, I want to also tell you, anybody studying to be a therapist, this important information, make sure you have a support system for yourself.
There you go.
I mean, without that, you're going to hear some horrific stories and intimacies of people every single day. You have to have a way to compartmentalize that information and still be able to go home and get some sleep, still be able to see your own children, still be able to look at the world like it's a possibility for hope. Because you hear some of those stories, it makes you wonder, what kind of world am I living in?
Right. So the therapist need a therapist.
Without question. Without question. And let me tell you, and if your therapist ain't seeing a therapist at some point in time, they lying to you.
Right.
I've seen it for myself.
Right.
And the harder the cases are, especially if they're working with younger children, the most vulnerable populations, they have 2 or 3 therapists because it's just that hard on you mentally and that hard on your heart.
That's awesome. Give us some feedback on, you know what, I've been asking the questions. You tell me, what is it that you want to share that we've not touched on?
Well, I want to let the audience, the listening audience, know that it is an abundance of therapists that could help you. Okay. And I advise you to seek that out.
Thank you.
As well as if your children are behaving, they're getting some kind of behaviors at school, they're being labeled at school. We have other behavioralists. They have behavioralists now, and if you need that, you can contact me by text. I have some behavioralists on deck that look like your son or daughter if they're black. So you can get that. My phone number, and what you could text me is 260-760-8877, and that's what the Trust Tree. That's a little side thing that I do. I do some life coaching and want to be able to hook up people with some behavioral help, because I know a lot of our children are getting labeled early at the elementary level with all kind of disorders, and saying that the child don't know how to sit down and listen and observe and take in the information without getting out their seat, and ADHD and these things and the like. Look, we have people that can come in that look like you, that are culturally relevant to who you are, that can help you with that. Okay, so I don't want, because a lot of times these children get labeled, and that label follows them throughout school, throughout the juvenile system, throughout the adult system. These things follow your child. So you want to be very careful, okay, of that. And I also want to make people aware, when you do go in to get the assistance that you want, make sure that you're documenting what's going on, because life changes happen. So you have to be able to recognize when things have changed for you. I was feeling good today. Tomorrow I woke up, I wasn't feeling some kind of way. I don't know why, but this is the time, and this is what I thought about when I first got up. If you have children and they really can't talk that well and verbalize, have them draw a picture. And people don't understand the power that comes with pictures and the color of the picture. If they're coloring with a lot of red and black, or a lot of black and white, something's going on. If they're not coloring with enough color. So all these things can play a part in you diagnosing something being incorrect. That don't mean you finna become a world-class therapist, a psychotherapist, or psychologist by looking at a drawing. Absolutely not.
What you're simply saying is pay attention to your child.
Absolutely.
That's what you're saying. Good.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Absolutely.
Right. And write it down. Write it down on the calendar. Write it down in a steno pad. Write it down so you're able to pay attention what's going on today versus last week. That's good.
Absolutely, because documentation is what says it all. Because it's something I can follow up. Okay, this happened on this day. This happened on this day. Heck, you text 500 times a day. You check Facebook,
I know that's right.
391 times a day. You know, ain't nobody left you no message. But you checking it all the time. You ain't had one tweet all day. You steady checking it. So you can at least do that part. That's not that. I don't think that's that complicated to do. So it's just that I do want to say thank you.
Thank you
for inviting me on. I mean, this is a pleasure. It went a lot faster than I thought. I kind of blinked my eyes, and next thing you know, it's about over with. But I do want to tell people, I don't ever want anyone to take for granted their life, what they have to give to society or the people around you. Nobody may not always appreciate what it is that you do, but somebody's always looking at what you do.
Right.
Okay? Right. Whether it be your child, your next door neighbor, or somebody you don't even know. Everything you do has the potential to make somebody great.
Right. Thank you so much, sir.
You are welcome.
Xavier Qadar.
Appreciate it.
You are listening to Speak Now, jamming with my jazz at 95.7 FM, WELT.